Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, India remembers martyrs and victims who lost their lives while defending the Indian Parliament 22 years ago. UN General Assembly overwhelmingly demands Gaza ceasefire. India votes in favor of draft resolution. 10 countries, including US and Israel, vote against it. Biden says Putin is banking on the US failing to deliver for Ukraine as he meets his Ukrainian counterpart in Washington. Zelensky says it would be insane for Ukraine to be willing to give up occupied territory. The deadly terror attack on Indian Parliament 22 years ago shook the country. Today, India pays tribute to the martyrs who made the ultimate sacrifice while preventing the attack. In a tragic incident, 9 people were killed and 18 were injured, including 6 Delhi police and 2 Parliament security officials. One of the attackers wore a suicide vest that exploded after he was shot. This explosion killed him and 4 other terrorists. The main suspects of the terror attack were identified as Afzal Guru and his cousin Shaukat Hussain Guru. In 2013, Afzal Guru was condemned to death and hanged in Tihar jail. Up next, we take a look at what is lined up in the winter session of Parliament today. In Lok Sabha, the lower house of Parliament, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will introduce the Central Goods and Services Tax Second Amendment Bill 2023. Besides, Communications Minister Ashwini Vaishnav will introduce the Post Office Amendment Bill 2023 for consideration and passage. The bill has already been passed by Rajya Sabha, that is the upper house of the Parliament. While in Rajya Sabha, Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal will introduce the Repealing and Amending Bill 2023 for consideration and passage. Besides, Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan will introduce the Central Universities Amendment Bill 2023 for consideration and passage. Lok Sabha has already passed the bill. The international community has overwhelmingly backed a resolution at the United Nations calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, that is a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. The move comes after the US vetoed a similar resolution at the UN Security Council last week. William Denslow reports from UN headquarters in New York on this.
The support for this resolution was resounding. 153 nations voting at the UN General Assembly Hall voting in favour of a resolution that demands the immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. This comes after a similar resolution was vetoed by the United States at the UN Security Council late last week. The US at the time saying that such a ceasefire would essentially give Hamas the time to regroup, and that's why they're against that move.
153 in favor, 10 against, 23 abstentions. Draft Resolution A/ES10/L27 has been adopted.
Significantly as well, the United States did offer an amendment to the resolution that was rejected. This called essentially for Hamas to be named and shamed in the resolution. Linda Thomas Greenfield, the US ambassador to the UN, saying that why is it so difficult for the international community to call out Hamas for the atrocities they committed on October 7th.
The humanitarian situation in Gaza is dire and requires urgent and sustained attention. That civilians desperately need food and water and shelter and medical care. In addition, we support the release of all hostages immediately and unconditionally. Any ceasefire right now would be temporary at the best and dangerous at worst. Dangerous to Israelis, who would be subject to relentless attacks, and also dangerous to Palestinians, who deserve the chance to build a better future for themselves, free from Hamas.
Now, we had a very strong message as well from the President of the UN General Assembly, Dennis Francis, speaking at this session.
I used my recent attendance at the Doha Forum and every other platform I can to encourage cooperation among states with the same singular goal in mind: to make peace for all. In the name of humanity, I ask you all once again, stop this violence now.
William Denslow in New York, reporting for DD India.
Relatives and friends and other supporters marched in Jerusalem on Tuesday to press the Israeli government and the international community and demand immediate release of the Israeli hostages held by the Hamas fighters.
We're here today to ask the government to immediately bring everybody back. We would like them to go to negotiation immediately. There isn't any time. Our people, our families are there alone in the cold. We want them back home. There isn't any time. They're dying there. There isn't any time. Bring them home now.
Israeli troops recovered the bodies of 2 hostages seized by Hamas gunmen on October 7th, Israeli military chief said on Tuesday. Israeli military chief also said that Hamas is holding Israeli hostages in very brutal conditions.
IDF Special Forces recovered the bodies of 2 Israeli hostages during a complex hostage rescue operation in Gaza. 27-year-old Eden Zecharia, who was taken hostage by Hamas from the Nova Music Festival, and 36-year-old Command Sergeant Major Ziv Dado, who was taken hostage while on active duty. Sadly, we did not reach them in time. Forces located the bodies of the hostage inside an underground infrastructure in a densely populated area in Gaza. Hamas is holding our people hostage in brutal conditions while hiding among and under the people of Gaza. Among and under the people of Gaza. This makes our hostage rescue operation in Gaza complex, but it will not deter us from our mission, our duty to rescue our hostages from Hamas.
U.S. President Joe Biden has urged Congress to approve billions of dollars for Ukraine, warning that not to do so would be a Christmas gift for Russia's leader. Biden met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House on Tuesday amid a funding fight which has seen Republicans refuse to support extra assistance for Kyiv. Nick Harper gets us details from Washington.
US President Joe Biden used his remarks in the Oval Office and in the subsequent press conference to attack Republicans who are blocking new aid to Ukraine. He argued that Russia would be emboldened by the deadlock on Capitol Hill, adding history will judge harshly those who turn their back on freedom's cause. At issue, conservative Republican lawmakers demand to allocate significant funding to strengthen security at the US-Mexico border. Without that, they say they're unwilling to support new funding, the television host pointing out it was good for Russia. In an obvious dig at Republicans, Biden said, if you're being celebrated by Russian propagandists, it's probably time to rethink what you're doing.
The American people, Democrats and Republicans, alike, I think, understand this, and they understand the very real fight that's going on right now. In the winter, this winter, Putin plans once again to bombard Ukraine's electric grid. Intends to, with rockets, plunging families into darkness in the coldest part of the year and doing great damage. We can't and won't let him succeed. We mustn't let him succeed in that. Mr. President, I call on Congress to do the right thing, to stand with Ukraine and to stand up for freedom.
Ukraine is gradually becoming less dependent on aid, and we are moving to the right, I think, right direction, and I want to discuss with the President how to strengthen it, especially enhancing our air defense and ability to destroy Russia's logistics. Our goals for 24 are clear. Take away Russia's superiority and disrupt their offensive operations.
But with US lawmakers leaving Washington at the end of this week for the holidays and not returning until the new year, there's a race on to pass new legislation and new funding as soon as possible. Biden urged Congress to approve the money this week, saying if they didn't, they'd be giving Putin the greatest Christmas gift they could possibly give him. Meanwhile, the US Treasury announced new sanctions on more than 150 individuals and entities that the US says is allegedly helping Russia's military. The US says that those who've been blacklisted have supplied technology, tools and equipment to help Moscow in its fight against Kiev. One small win, Zelensky leaves Washington with an additional $200 million, money Congress has already approved and that Biden is now releasing to Kiev. But it's nowhere near the more than $60 billion that Biden had asked Congress to approve. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
U.S. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell said on Tuesday that it would be practically impossible for Congress to pass a supplemental funding package containing aid for Ukraine before Christmas, even if a deal was struck in the coming days. McConnell told reporters that a deal on legislation to aid Ukraine, Israel and the Indo-Pacific will not happen unless President Biden is fully engaged with the Senate Republicans in talks aimed at including provisions to restrict migrant crossings at the U.S.-Mexico border. Ukraine's biggest mobile network operator, Kyivstar, was hit on Tuesday by the largest cyber attack of the war with Russia so far, knocking out mobile and internet services for millions and the air raid alert system in parts of Kyiv region. Russian hacktivist group Killnet put out a statement on social media claiming responsibility of the attack. They did not provide evidence for their claim. Ukraine's Kyivstar, which has 24 million subscribers, in a statement said that it had restored some services and hoped all its operations would be back to normal on Wednesday. Its CEO, Alexander Kamarov, said the attack was a result of the war with Russia.
We have been hit as a result of this war. The aim was to damage infrastructure. I can say they partially reached the aim, thanks to the response by Kyivstar employees. I have to explain, significantly damaged infrastructure, limited access, we could not counter it at the virtual level, so we shut down Kyivstar physically to limit the enemy's access to Kyivstar infrastructure.
A decision on phasing out fossil fuels across the globe is unlikely to happen at this stage at the COP28 in Dubai. Even winning the support of all governments would far more clarity and support for finance and clean technology for developing countries appear quite an uphill task. Strong pushback from oil and gas producing nations in the Middle East, African, Asian and Latin American countries categorically said that they could not embark on such a journey without clear guarantees of international support.
Please take your seats so that we may begin.
The 28th session of the United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP28, in Dubai concluded on Tuesday. Countries gathered at the Dubai summit with an aim to agree on a global plan of action to limit climate change fast enough to avert more disastrous flooding, fatal heat, and irreversible changes to the world's ecosystems.
We've been seeking the right balance between those elements. But this is a process of the parties. It's a question of how ambitious the parties truly are and where they want the balance to be. That is what we're negotiating about.
A new document is in the pipeline as countries debate on no mention of fossil fuels in the first draft, which was released on Monday and was deemed as the most critical document of COP this year. The first draft notably omitted mention of phase out of fossil fuels, and now the new one is on its way to get published. Now let's take a look at some of the major initiatives launched at the 13-day summit. 170+ announcements made at COP28, ranging across pledges and declarations, publications and reports, new initiatives and progress and updates. Task Force on Net Zero policy to encourage sharing of knowledge and best practices among policymakers and regulators launched. COP28 presidency launched the Net Zero Transition Charter. Global Renewables and Energy Efficiency Pledge. 100+ countries agreed to triple renewable energy capacity by 2030. Global Cooling Pledge. 66+ countries agree to reduce cooling-related emissions by 68% globally. 52 signatories of the Oil and Gas Decarbonization Charter commit to net zero operations by 2050. Utilities for Zero Alliance launched with 31 partners. Countries of Latin American and Caribbean Renewables Hub raise target for renewable energy in total electricity generation to 80% by 2030. 78 countries and 40 organizations endorse COP28 UAE Declaration on Climate Relief, Recovery and Peace. 141 countries join COP28 UAE Declaration on Climate and Health, commit to advancement of climate-resilient development. COP28 presidency launches UAE Declaration on Sustainable Agriculture, Resilient Food Systems and Climate Action. COP28 high-level champion announces launch of COP28 Joint Statement for Climate, Nature and People. Azerbaijan has been announced as the host of next year's climate summit after fraught negotiations. Now all eyes remain on the ongoing negotiations at COP28 with the hope that parties will deliver an ambitious agreement that sets the world on a path to a more sustainable future.
All 198 countries have to agree on the final text that this climate summit is hoping to produce. One aspect that is being seen as positive, a wide-scale pledge by many countries to triple the amount of renewable energy that's produced by 2030. John Beaver in Dubai, reporting for DD India.
Devotees gathered in large numbers at a basilica in Mexico City to mark the annual version of Guadalupe Feast Day. The Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe is the second most visited Catholic shrine in the world after St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. A U.S. citizen accused of trying to stab his girlfriend and a taxi driver in the Brazilian city of Salvador jumped from his hotel room on Tuesday to escape the police. The accused was staying at the hotel with false documents, making it difficult to trace him. 3 small quakes shook buildings in Mexico City on Tuesday morning. The 3 microquakes had hit between 11:06 and 11:09 local time and were particularly felt in the south and center of the seismically active city. Different intensities were felt depending on the place the quakes hit. A 20-year-old immigrant baker in Rennes fears for his situation as an undocumented worker in France after the French lower house of parliament rejected the immigration bill. Solimain Barry, a full-time employee at Angers Bakery, faces an extradition order by the French police that decided to turn down his request for a work permit twice. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Global Partnership for Artificial Intelligence Summit underway in New Delhi with focus on ensuring ethics, transparency and democratic values. Swearing-in ceremony of new governments in the Indian states of Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh today. And Fed Chair Jerome Powell will announce the central bank's rate decision.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world, one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live and I'm Preeti. Let's get to more international updates. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk's government won a vote of confidence in Parliament. Voting results showed Tusk received the support of 248 lawmakers, while 201 voted against him at the end of a sitting that was disrupted by a far-right deputy. In his inaugural speech to Parliament, Tusk called on Poland's fractious political class to unite, saying it cannot afford divisions while Russia is waging a war of aggression across the border. Tusk's government will be sworn in by President Andrzej Duda today before the new Prime Minister heads to Brussels for a summit of European Union leaders. Egypt's presidential elections come to a close at 1900 GMT on Tuesday, with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi expecting another 6-year term in the absence of a real competition. Now, this was Sisi's third election since coming to power in 2013. Egypt's National Election Authority informed that the turnout on the first 2 days reached about 45%, surpassing that of the last presidential election in 2018. Results are expected on December 18th. In Slovakia, thousands of people protested across the country against plans by Prime Minister Robert Fico's government to fast-track criminal law changes that include scrapping a special prosecutor's office focused on corruption. In Bratislava, protesters waved Slovak and European Union flags as they gathered at Freedom Square to oppose changes sought by a government appointed in October. Slovak President Zuzana Kapitova has said that the proposed changes included unacceptable political meddling in personal matters and said that they threaten to weaken the position of whistleblowers and could lead to a halt in the inflow of European Union funds. The 3-day Global Partnership for Intelligence, Artificial Intelligence, in fact, the summit is underway here in New Delhi. Inaugurating the event on Tuesday, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi gave a clarion call for a worldwide framework for ethical, responsible and secure development of the technology.
India is hosting the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence Summit 2023. GPAI is an international initiative to support responsible and human-centric development, use of artificial intelligence. Addressing the gathering, Prime Minister stressed on transparent and inclusive use of artificial intelligence.
AI के साथ हम एक नए युग में प्रवेश कर रहे हैं। आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का विस्तार टेक्नोलॉजी के टूल से भी कहीं ज्यादा है। AI हमारे नए भविष्य को गढ़ने का सबसे बड़ा आधार बन रही है।
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence Summit at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi.
AI के प्रभाव से वर्तमान और आने वाली पीढ़ियां कोई भी छूटी नहीं है। हमें बहुत सतर्कता के साथ, बहुत सावधानी के साथ आगे बढ़ना है।
Prime Minister Modi also spoke on the dangers of artificial intelligence.
AI 21वीं सदी में विकास का सबसे बड़ा टूल बन सकता है और 21वीं सदी को तबाह करने में भी सबसे बड़ी भूमिका निभा भी सकता है। डीप फेक का चैलेंज आज पूरी दुनिया के सामने है। इसके अलावा साइबर सिक्योरिटी, डेटा थेफ्ट और आतंकियों के हाथ में AI टूल्स के आने का भी बहुत बड़ा खतरा है।
Earlier, Prime Minister visited a special expo at the summit. The expo presents the work of leading startups in the domain.
AI is something that can be negative and positive as well. And for that, I want to check out like how we can learn from it, what are the things that we can get from it.
I like the part where a lot of more jobs can be created through AI. If I can make my audience aware about AI, and even one person life can change, I think that's a very great thing. And they are trying to do it on a larger scale. I like that about the conference.
GPAI Summit 2023 is focusing on 4 core themes: responsible AI, data governance, future of work, innovation and commercialization. India's leadership at the summit is expected to steer global deliberations on AI towards democratizing its use for public good.
At the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence Summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi presented a vision for sustainable use of AI. In the next couple of days, AI stakeholders from across the world will deliberate and work towards an actionable agenda. With camera person Sumit Dhiman, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in Delhi.
The new Chief Ministers of Indian states of Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh will take oath on Wednesday. BJP's Mohan Yadav will take oath as Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, while Vishnu Dev Sai will take oath as the Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will attend the swearing-in ceremonies of the newly elected Chief Ministers. Union Home Minister Amit Shah and BJP President JP Nadda are also likely to attend the swearing-in ceremony. In the southern Indian state of Tamil Nadu, 6-member Central Committee undertook an extensive inspection of the aftermath caused by Cyclone Mibjong. Before their visit, the team held a consultation session with Tamil Nadu's Chief Secretary at the Chennai Secretariat. Upon his arrival, the committee split into 2 teams to assess the impact across the rain-affected areas. One team scrutinized North Chennai, Central Chennai, Avadi and Tiruvallur districts, while the other focused on South Chennai, Chengalpattu and Kanchipuram. Accompanying the central team were officials from Tamil Nadu government, municipal corporation representatives and dedicated district collectors. They closely examined severely affected areas like Valacheri, Madipakam, Perumbakam, Palikarana, among others. Let's take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from India today. A large number of devotees reached the Sabrimala temple in the South Indian state of Kerala. The annual 41-day Mandala Makaravilaku pilgrimage, which started on November 16th, is witnessing a huge rush this season. Many devotees are reaching to the Ayappa shrine from other states also, including Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. The Indian Navy on Tuesday organized a beating retreat ceremony at the Gateway of India in Mumbai. The Indian Navy is celebrating the Navy Week 2023, an event that began on December 11th and will go on till December 14th. Various events have been organized by the Indian Navy to mark the celebrations. CBSE released the date sheets for Class 10th and Class 12th Board Examinations 2024. The date sheets were released on its official website, that is cbse.nic.in. According to CBSE, the examination scheduled will be beginning on 15th of February 2024 and it will continue till 2nd April 2024. On to an update on Fed's last policy decision of the year. Investors widely expect the Federal Open Market Committee to hold interest rates steady at its meeting. The FOMC interest rate decision will be announced on Wednesday, and Fed Chairman Jerome Powell will address the media after the announcement. Fed is expected to keep its funds rate unchanged and to challenge rate cut expectations. According to a recent survey, U.S. consumers are backing down from their expectations of rising gas and rental costs, and they expect inflation to moderate over the next 12 months. That's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, Twitter and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.